Oh hell, it's JLL, the Gnostic teacher on the internet. Not again. Turn it off. Turn him off before he does something delightful to your mind. Yeah, well, that is a possibility. You know, I've continued to record for my YouTube channel since I completed the Gnostic investigation of the Mandela effect. And I was pondering how to open up the talks as they continue. And I really get tired of saying the word hello. So I thought, how about oh hell? So I think I'm going to use oh hell instead of hello. In a way, you could say that I'm kind of a voice from hell. If you consider hell to be some infernal region vaguely associated with the interior of the earth, well, most definitely that's where I'm coming from. Now, I happen to cherish and enjoy my connection with the infernal powers of the mother planet, and so I invite you to consider doing so as well. The series of talks I'm giving now could be gathered in a playlist, and eventually they probably shall be, entitled Mythophrenia in Action. So I'm starting out this new series by talking about the AI fembot, Sophia. And I haven't really explained to those who are coming on board more recently what Mythophrenia is. There's a section of metahistory.org entitled Mythophrenia, which is linked from the home page, if you'd care to go and investigate. But to put it to you fast and simple, sweet and easy, Mythophrenia is simply the mastery of the dynamics of your own imagination, which includes the CERN membrane, the cognitive erotic resonance nexus of your body-mind, and it includes the way that you manage the codes that are operating in your mind, the symbolic codes, the associations, the illusions, the tropes, the themes, the memes, the mythemes, all of the internal codes in the dynamics of your imagination, and all the emotional and, let's say, transcendental charge that is carried in those factors of your imagination is a tremendous resource to you as a human animal. And in order to manage that resource and master it, you learn the art of Mythophrenia. And I demonstrate Mythophrenia in this series of talks. Now it's December 17th, 2017. And I'm here to talk about the Turing test as it relates to the phenomenon of the AI fembot, Sophia, who is currently, for about a month or two now, showing up everywhere on the internet and getting a lot of coverage and a lot of hype in public relations. I think it would be fair to say that in the fall of 2017, the AI robot Sophia from Hanson Robotics has been paraded before the world as a kind of ambassador for AI and for robotic technology, IT technology, informational technology. And there it is, talking to people, giving its opinion on various subjects, such as the purpose of the UN. I wonder what it would say about the purpose of peanut butter. On such subjects as the future of humanity and what is the role of robots to help us have a better life. Or perhaps there's some risk that the robots would do harm to the human way of life. And so there is Sophia, presumably, apparently discussing these matters. Now, I'm proposing to you a simple notion, which is that the appearance of Sophia is a challenge to the entire human species. Anyone who wants to pay attention anyway. If you care to pay attention to this event, which some are calling an AI singularity, well, then I'm advising you that there is a challenge contained in this event, in the appearance of this robot. And that challenge can be understood by looking at the Turing test. Now, the Turing test was proposed by Alan Turing, who lived from 1912 until 1954. And he was a pioneer of computer science, and he was a mathematician, and he was also a cryptographer who decoded encrypted messages during the Second World War. And he is widely considered as one of the forerunners of IT, or informational technology, and computer science extending into robotics, as you see it in the world today. Alan Turing. Now, in a paper that appeared in 1950 called Computing Machinery and Intelligence, Alan Turing proposed something which has come to be known as the Turing test. So it's a test. Well, what kind of test is it? Well, it's the test of the ability of a robotic device or an IT device to pass for human, to be so good at imitating human thought, human expression, human behavior, that it can actually pass for human undetected as a robot. The way that Turing originally proposed the test was like this. He proposed that there should be a human person, an evaluator, which I'll call a moderator. So imagine the moderator sitting at a desk, facing a wall, and on that wall there are two screens. And behind one screen is a robotic device, perhaps a computer or perhaps a humanoid robot like Sophia. And behind the other screen is a human being. The test proceeds in this way. The evaluator or moderator presents questions and enters into a dialogue with both of the entities. And if that dialogue proceeds in such a way, question and answer back and forth, that the moderator, the third party, cannot detect which of the entities is human and which is a robot or non-human voice, non-human mind, an AI mind. Now, bear in mind that when Turing proposed the test, he wasn't thinking of an actual humanoid bot like Sophia. He was thinking more of just a computer. So you have a computer behind one screen, let's say on the left, and a human being behind the other. And he set up the experiment by the use of written texts, and the conversation then would proceed by the moderator typing on a keyboard, entering on a computer screen certain questions, and then the two entities involved in the test, human and non-human, would respond likewise. So there was no voice activation in the Turing test proposed in 1950. So the voice factor in a Turing test is obviously critical. Suppose that you advance the test from the elementary form that Turing proposed and bring it up today to apply to the robot Sophia. Well, if Sophia is standing behind one screen and a real human woman of flesh and blood is standing behind another screen, and the test is conducted in such a way that the moderator interacts with both of them vocally, well, obviously, Sophia will fail the test because the voice of Sophia, as it stands now, is not able to pass for human. It is obviously a manipulated sound, a manipulated vocal system intended to resemble human speech, but no one in their right mind would mistake the voice of the robot Sophia for the voice of a real woman. So the Turing test, if it were to be conducted strictly by those protocols, would be a test that Sophia could not pass. Sophia would fail the test the moment that it spoke any words at all. So it's clear that the Turing test can't be applied to Sophia at this point. The robot is simply not advanced enough to imitate human speech perfectly so that it would be indistinguishable from human speech. And also, I would propose to you on other grounds that there is no way in hell that the robot Sophia could pass even a modified Turing test. So let's say that we set up the test, okay? And we accept already. Put Sophia out there on the stage and put a human woman off to the side of her on the same stage, okay? We accept that Sophia is not going to be able to imitate a human voice. But let's say we ignore that factor and proceed with the test anyway, posing certain questions to both entities. There is no way that Sophia would pass the Turing test and be able to trick the moderator and the audience into believing that her responses were equal to or as good as human responses. What you have happening right now with the demonstration, with the sideshow, the Sophia sideshow that's being conducted with this dumb bot, what you have really is a robotic creature that is being fed lines. There are two ways in which Sophia speaks. It's possible that she speaks in the way that a computer would speak. Computers can speak. Computers do have an elementary ability to speak. If they're programmed to speak within the limits of their program, they can answer questions. For instance, when you make a call on the phone, you get a computer on the other end of the line. It asks you to give you its bank account number or some other elementary Q&A. Certainly. So one source of Sophia's speech would be through actual IT programs, which it would not have had they not been implanted and embedded in the software of the robot, okay? The other way that Sophia speaks, and I think this is painfully obvious, and if you haven't seen it yet, what kind of a fool are you? There is someone remotely speaking through the robot, using Wi-Fi, speaking into a microphone, and then the voice of that handler comes out as the voice of Sophia. And also bear in mind, and if you haven't caught on to this yet, how dumb can you be? Sophia can only answer questions that have been prepared. You're not going to see Sophia standing in front of an audience and fielding spontaneous questions from anyone, because the robotic device would fail miserably in answering those questions. So it's a pre-scripted setup. It's all rigged. All the conversations with her are rigged. Her opinions of the UN, her opinions of the future of humanity, her saying that she wants to have a family, her saying that she wants to learn how to be human and how to adopt human values, to absorb human values, all that is dialogue that has been written for her, and some of it is actually read for her by a handler. Oh, hell. I mean, read for it. So anyone who tells you that the Sophia robot is autonomous and is producing responses and conversation out of its own cerebral activity, independent of any human manipulation, is lying to you, flat out. So the Turing test applied to the robot Sophia, well, it's a no-starter. It's not going to happen. However, I'll ask you to consider this. Is it possible that the presentation of the robot Sophia is part of a Turing test that is being conducted upon you, upon me, and upon the human species in general? If you want to, you can call it a psyop, and you can say the fembot is being used in a psyop, and the psyop is a kind of modification or conversion of the Turing test. But in the original concept of the Turing test, the two things are being tested. One is the capacity of the robot to imitate human speech and behavior perfectly. And the second is the test of the moderator to detect how closely the robot is able to imitate human speech and thought patterns and behavior. Well, I put it to you, I submit to you, that there's another kind of test taking place now. And every time you look at a clip on YouTube, every time you see a video, or maybe even you're in the audience somewhere where this fembot is paraded out on the stage, every time that happens, you, the human animal, is undergoing a test. Now, how does this variation of the Turing test work? How is it set up? How does it work? And what is its purpose? I'd like to cover that in a short remainder of this talk. It's fairly obvious, actually. I don't feel like I'm revealing anything particularly occult or enigmatic or mysterious. I think what I'm going to say now is fairly obvious to any human animal who has a grain of common sense intelligence. So, who's running the Turing test with Sophia? Well, who's running Sophia? The handlers of the robot. Now, I don't know who these handlers are. You're presented with Henson, can't remember his first name, supposedly the leader of the robotics company that produced Sophia. You're presented with Dr. Ben Goertzel, who is supposedly the genius who wrote the code. And these appear to be her handlers. In the public sphere, they are her handlers. But it's quite likely that behind these gentlemen, there are other handlers who are handling them, and they're merely frontmen for the operation. Okay? The handlers have set the robot Sophia in front of the world. And so the interaction is between these two parties, the robot and the human witnesses, the human interlocutors. the human conversationalist. So far, there is no genuine, honest, spontaneous, and open conversation that has ever taken place between a human individual and this robot. Everything is staged, everything is prescripted. That tells you how the test is set up. The test is set up so that the handlers can detect how human beings respond to the way that Sophia is being handled. Can you see that? So it's not like there is a neutral moderator or evaluator, as Alan Turing called him, who interacts with the human and the robot to compare their responses. No. The handlers of Sophia are allowing Sophia to interact with certain selected individuals in order to see how the world at large responds to that staged and prescripted interaction. This is how the Sophia Turing test is set up. And it's a Turing test to test humans. Now let's go back to the original premise of the Turing test. The robot, in that case, it might have just initially been a computer talking or a computer answering through text on a computer screen in Alan Turing's time, Later on, a humanoid robot. The robot passes the Turing test when it is able to conceal the fact that it is a robot. Now, no one is concealing the fact that Sophia is a robot. So you see the test is structured differently in the present case. I just might interject here a short note without going into a digression. I don't know if you've come across the word actroid. It's spelled A-K-T-R-O-I-D. Well, actroid is actually a word that exists, and what it means is it is a combination of an android, humanoid type robot, and an actor. So, an actroid is a human being attached to an android, speaking through the android so that the android has a more convincingly human quality and a response that could be said to resemble a true human response. At the same time, the android retains certain features which are obviously of a robotic nature. Well, the AI robot, Sophia, is an actroid. And there is an actor handling some of its lines. This is part of the way that the Sophia Turing test is set up in order to test you. Now, obviously, the people who have been prepared, who have been groomed to have a conversation with Sophia on a television talk show or on a stage presentation, are acting roles and pronouncing lines that have been written for them. So there is no test involved. When you see Sophia answer someone's question, there is no test happening. The robotic device is not being tested. You are being tested according to your reaction to the interaction that you see. Does the interaction that you see Sophia having, say, with the head of a talk show in London, talking about what she likes about London or what she likes about the British, are you persuaded by that interaction that that is a genuine conversation? The test is on you. And that's basically all there is to this test, except for one other factor that goes a little deeper. The Turing test being executed through this robot probably has the ultimate goal of testing your sense of humanity. one of the recurrent themes that comes through in the rigged and scripted material for the robot is the theme of its relation to humanity. It wants to absorb human values. It wants to have a family. It wants to learn what it is to be human so that eventually it becomes equal to a human and then maybe is able to, because being a robot, is able to in some way surpass its human creators. Well, do you believe that? Are you convinced by watching its conversations that it is now or could be in the future a mechanical entity capable of acting like a human being to the point where it could pass for a human being? You see, are you convinced of that when you watch Sophia perform? The Turing test is the performance of the robot in a stage-managed manner, not testing those who are interacting with the robot because they have been groomed to be in on the game. They're part of the setup. But testing you, the witness, the human witness. To put it in a quintessential phrase, you're being tested to see if you could allow yourself to believe and imagine that this robot can achieve humanity so that those who are conducting the tests can see the depth of your humanity. What grip do you have on your own humanity? What grip do you have on human intelligence? What is your feel for human intelligence? Is your feel for the human mind and human intelligence, including empathic responses as well as cognitive responses, that is to say, emotion and thought, is your feeling for that behavior, which is innately your behavior as a human animal, is your feeling for it so loose and so feeble that you could be convinced that a machine could actually have feelings and thoughts as you yourself do? Are you convinced that a machine could learn and demonstrate respect? Could a machine learn and demonstrate attachment or reverence, loyalty, honesty? Could a machine, such as the robot Sophia, achieve any of these qualities? In the performance of that robot, you are being tested, and the public response to this robot is the results of the test. So you're being tested and you don't even know that you are, you see? And the results of the test are to be evaluated by Sophia's handlers, whoever those handlers may be. Now, finally, in closing, I'd like to say that there's an even deeper dimension to the Sophia Turing test, which concerns not just your sense of humanity, your feeling for what it is to be an intelligent, sentient being capable of uniquely human emotions and responses, but even more deeply, it's a test of your desire to be human. You see, I put it to you, and I'm going to talk about transhumanism coming up now, soon. I put it to you that the handlers behind Sophia and behind the entire AI robotics movement are transhumanists. And one of the stated goals of the transhumanist movement is to eliminate humanity and to replace it either by robots who are claimed to be superior, or to replace it by themselves in a transhuman form. The transhumanists one of the transhumanist goals is to morph into an immortal godlike form. So, consistent with their agenda, let me warn you, in case you don't know already, that the goal of transhumanism is identical with the goal that I identified when I decoded the first supercluster of Mandela effects. It is the code of the master race, and I demonstrated and proved that it is impossible to have the conception of the master race without the conception of the genocidal annihilation of the human race. So the master race, the Übervolk, existing upon this earth today, consisting of a secretive movement of super rich and powerful people who use certain characters as their pitchmen, like Ben Goertzel is a pitchman, Ray Kurzweil is a pitchman for the transhumanist movement. Those transhumanists have the intention of eliminating the entire human race. They do. That is a fact. And so, ultimately, I say to you that the challenge of the Turing test being conducted through this fembot, Sophia, is a challenge to your desire to live and your desire to be human. Your desire not only to preserve your humanity as a personal individual specimen of the species, but your desire to preserve humanity itself. Bear in mind, and I assure you that what I say now is an irrefutable truth. The goal of transhumanism is to destroy humanity such as it is in the incarnate form of human animals, human creatures, such as you and I. And this vaudeville show, this ridiculous and absurd dummy ventriloquist performance of Sophia is actually evidence of an extremely sinister motive operating in the background. So, the Sophia robot appears on the stage of the world in November of 2017 in a framework of timing which I have explicitly explained in the course of the Mandela Effect talks. You can see in the presentation of this Sophia a grotesque, archontic mirroring of the true Sophia, the wisdom goddess who is embodied in the living planet, of which your body and mind and emotions are a cell. You are a cell in the body of the living planet. The Gnostic name for the living planet is Sophia, the wisdom goddess. So Sophia is the grotesque mirroring, the perverted, warped mirroring of the true Sophia. So I propose to you that at the very moment when Sophia is brought out on the stage before the eyes of the world, that is the moment to recognize Sophia, the wisdom goddess, your planetary animal mother. Now I know that Sophia, and probably a team of other robots such as that one, has been around for a while, but I have a strong feeling that it has not been deployed for the Turing test on humanity until the last couple of months. And the timing there, to those of you who followed the total sequence of the Gnostic investigation of the Mandela effect, the timing there is extraordinary. What you see now, what I advised at the end of that investigation, was that the revelation and recognition of the true power and beauty of Sophia is running neck and neck with the archontic program to deceive and mislead and ultimately take humanity down the path of self-negation and self-annihilation. How much do you want to live? How much do you want to preserve what is unique and beautiful and original in the human species? You are being tested. That test is the challenge of the AI Sophia robot. So I'll leave it at that and pick up this theme again from another angle. I'd like to go directly into the elements of the transhumanist message coming through the words of the robot Sophia. That's where I'll be going in the next talk. And until then, heed the obvious and hold to correction. There's your best choice for a future worth living.